Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. We are your hosts, Bull and P, and today we're going to talk about the offensive line troubles, what the heck's going on up there in Knoxville. We're going to take a look at what the roster looks like currently and what we can do moving forward to, maybe try to fix this whole issue and all of that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and bring up to you what Coach Ellerby has done. Okay, so these are all of the prospects that Coach Ellerby has brought to Knoxville since he's been here. 2021, we know that was kind of a push. 2022, obviously, we're trying to get over that hump, but we did have a really good season. So you can kind of tell, from the time that Coach E has been here, from the time that, the entire staff has been here, that we've gotten better. Like, we're going out and getting better players. But in 2021, we got Will Parker, okay, he was offensive tackle, 3-star. He transferred out, I believe, to UAB. And then, we got Jeremiah Crawford. Okay, he's still on the roster. He's kind of a swing guy. He's kind of a guy that we use, like as a just-in-case sort of a player. Honestly speaking, P, and you can kind of chime in wherever you want to, but he's not a guy that I would necessarily want starting for this team. But, he is there.
Yeah, me either. And I may be wrong here, but I thought that this was his last season. I thought he was done. Is he coming back, or I thought he was out of eligibility? He is. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, that's another body,
Yep. Yeah, it is.
So a warm body.
Yep. So on to 2022, we've got Addison Nichols. Okay, he was an offensive tackle in high school, but we kind of looked at him at center, and he was a 4-star. He transferred out. Okay, so like we all know about that. And then we've got Masai Reddick. That's another offensive tackle. He's another 3-star. And, he's still here with us. Haven't seen him play very much. I don't know if I've seen him play at all. P, have you seen him play?
Yeah, I saw. I want to say he might have played in the bowl game, maybe. But I mean, he's a big old boy. He still looks like he's young though. Like the way he plays, still looks like he's young, trying to figure it out. But I don't know if these guys can really help us from what I've seen.
Okay, so then we're going down to Savion Herring. He was a 3-star coming out of high school as well. He was dismissed from the team. Then we've got Brian Grant, another 3-star offensive tackle. Haven't seen him play very much. Gerald Mincy, okay, that's the guy that we made videos on him. We all know that, he came in from Florida, transferred in. He was a 3-star coming out of high school. He was a 3-star as a transfer. And he was really good in 2022 playing left tackle. He didn't want to play right tackle, but he did it just because he had no other options. And he kind of took a step back in 23, and now he's transferring out. He's got a good ceiling, right? But just for the sake of what this video is all about, didn't really see him take a gigantic leap forward once he got on campus. It was more like he came out of high school as a 3-star. Then he comes on to campus. It seemed like Florida kind of got him better than that 3-star that he was rated at coming out of high school. And, he played well. I would say he played as a 4-star for us. But, again, he's not going to be with us anymore. P, do you have any thoughts on Gerald Mincy?
I mean, it's a tough loss just because we don't really know who we got behind him. It's going to step up and kind of bolster that offensive tackle position. But, he was solid for us, like you said, much better at left tackle, I think, in 22 than he was at right tackle. And I think a lot of that has to do with maybe his mental makeup. We talked about him before last season, kind of being a sometimes guy. And he's proven that over the last year or so. Hopefully we're better off kind of not having him on the roster, but we got to find another body that's as talented and as capable as his to help protect Nico next season.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get to 2023. You can tell that we're doing a better job. We're getting in more bodies. And I honestly think if you go back and watch our breakdowns on all of these players, we started it in 2023. We saw several of these guys being, more highly rated than what some of these other sites had them rated at. So we'll start off with Shamrod Umarov. He was a 4-star offensive tackle. A lot of y'all have been asking about him. Why isn't he ready? Why isn't he playing? That's a really good question. We saw from his film, he's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the footwork, everything that you want. That he should, especially right now in year 2, be a guy that you feel comfortable with throwing out there on the football field. We saw him in kind of like mop-up duty, in the Citrus Bowl. Don't really know exactly what he did just because, as far as the film breakdown, I am on defense right now. And for y'all members. That is coming out here shortly, and then we'll get to the offense. But haven't seen a whole lot out of him, but he does have a very high ceiling. Then we've got Bison Lang. He's a 3-star offensive tackle coming out of high school. We had him playing backup center right there behind Cooper Mays and Addison Nichols. And I've liked what I've seen from him so far. Now, P, you did mention that you saw him in the Citrus Bowl. How do you think he looked right there?
He looks good, man. He's playing left guard, which, I mean, with his body, his frame, I think he's a more natural guard than he is a center. But, I mean, he's a guy that could potentially be that left guard if we don't get a guy to come in. I think he looked really good. I'm from what I can remember, I feel like the starters were still in for Iowa, and he was moving guys off the line of scrimmage. Looked like he knew what to do. I don't remember seeing him whip on anybody. He probably got like a 2 or 3 series there towards the end, and he looked like he belongs out there. So high upside for him.
Yeah, so Bison is another guy that if you go back and watch our film breakdown on him, we kind of said, hey, he seems like more of a guard body. And, whenever you talk about some of these guys that we're trying to get into the transfer portal, because it does seem like we're targeting that left guard position, as far as a guy like, Reed Adams from Kansas, I think that he's kind of a push with Bison Lang, but the one thing that I would give to Bison Lang is that he's been in this system. He understands what the tempo is and all of that. So I guess I would probably give Bison Lang the edge versus him. I think that we're going to be fine right there at left guard if he does play there. But, again, we're going to get into it. Like we're going to get further into it. Who is the staff going to start out of this bunch? But let's keep on going. We've got Larry Johnson. Okay, he's an offensive tackle. He was a JUCO guy, another 3-star player. And, I've heard Cooper May say that he's the biggest guy on this roster. That was earlier in this season. I do think that, maybe somebody like Bennett Warren is bigger than him at this point, but this was before Bennett Warren got on campus. We've seen him some, but I mean, it seems like he still kind of has a ways to go. Let's keep on going. Aiden Bustle. Okay, he is rated as a 3-star interior offensive lineman. Really liked his film, and I said that I liked him a little bit better at tackle, but he's a plug-and-play guy. So wherever you have a void at on the offensive line, I feel like he can fill it. I love his fundamentals. Like, I love his footwork. I love his size, love his length, and I love his nastiness. He's a dog, and we did hear Austin Price talk about, he's a guy that we've kind of been trying out at tackle. Obviously, the coaching staff sees that we've got a big void at tackle. And as you go through this whole list, if y'all are just looking at it, you can see most of these guys are tackles. I've also seen some other people, on some of these, some of these message boards, things like that, talk about, hey, just go out and get tackles because those are the hardest ones to find. And you can make a tackle into a guard, into a center. I think that there's some truth to that, but there's also some truth in you need to find some technicians, at guard and at center. You need some guys that's what they do. And as you're looking through this, Coach E really hasn't done a very good job of that. And, by the way, we've got all these tackles. We're still kind of looking for one. But again, we'll get into that further into this video. Let's go ahead and get through this list. We've got John Campbell, who transferred in as a 3-star, and he played well last season. I liked what he did. Obviously, he was good enough to be able to, keep Joe Milton upright for most of the year. Is he the best that there is out there? I don't want to say that he's not. I don't want to say that he is. But I will say that, he was a serviceable, left tackle for us. And then let's go on down to Andre Carrick. He was a 4-star coming out of high school. He was a 3-star as a transfer playing at Texas. He was kind of like that third tight end, like a blocking tight end guy. Honestly speaking, I think that that's what his ceiling is. I didn't like his film. If you go back and watch that film breakdown, I was like, what the hell are we doing? I didn't really like it, okay? I'm still kind of seeing some of those same issues with him. Honestly speaking, just for me, if I was the one calling those shots, don't really want him starting. P, maybe you feel differently on that.
I feel exactly the same. I mean, he's shown us enough to me to show that he's not a guy that we can necessarily count on. Now, is he better than Jackson Lampley? I think so. I think he'd probably give more on Jackson Lampley. And so if you look at what we have coming back, from what we've seen, haven't seen a ton of Bison Lang. So just from what we've seen is Lampley. And that's really it. So, I mean, if it's between Lampley and Carrick, I'd probably go Carrick, but, I'd rather see Bison Lang. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so now let me kind of go back just because you're talking about Jackson Lampley. So Jackson Lampley came in 2019 as a 4-star He's from Tennessee. It seems like he loves Tennessee, but he did not come in up under Coach E. But he was a 4-star coming out of high school. Now y'all can kind of see why we say, hey, the stars don't mean everything. All right, now let's go into the 2020 class. We've got Bennett Warren, who is the highest rated offensive lineman in that class. He's a big guy. Saw him in the All-Star game. Came out as a 4-star. He's an offensive tackle. And the same things that we kind of saw on film is what we saw in that All-Star game. He's got the size, and you can see where the ceiling is. But I mean, he needs to get a lot better in several aspects. His footwork is not great. He's got to work on being able to stop some speed. But once he learns that, he's going to be a really good option at tackle. I just think that it's going to take him probably maybe like a year to be able to get to where he needs to be for us to feel like we can count on him as a tackle. P, what do you think about what do you think about Ben Warren?
I agree. It's going to take him at least a year, maybe even 2. He's definitely a guy I would expect to come in here. I mean, if this staff is banking on him coming in here and being the right tackle, I mean, we're going to have huge problems. So I mean, he's going to need some time. And it's not to say he's a bad player. It's just he's going to get beat a lot against SEC speed with how he's playing right now. He needs a year to get into the college weight room, see college speed in practice, and develop his technique in a way where he can actually avoid getting beat every time somebody gives him a speed rush. So, I mean, he has a ways to go, but like you said, the potential is there. And if he can develop, he can be really, really good for us. But I think he's still a ways away.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next guy, which is Max Anderson. Okay, this is another offensive tackle from Texas. For me, okay, he can play tackle, but to me, he's much more of a guard. I think his ceiling is a lot higher. It's a lot higher at guard. Again, he's a 4-star. I really like what I've seen from him on film. We'll see what he does once he gets on campus. Let's go on down to William Satterwhite. I believe he's from maybe like the Midwest somewhere. And he's a 4-star interior offensive lineman. To me, he would probably have a very high ceiling at center, but I think that he could play really anywhere on the offensive line. P, I think that you're on the same page with me there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to bring him up when we talk about Bryson Lang. So do you know is Satterwhite, is he already on campus?
He is on campus.
He's already up there. Yeah. So I wonder if maybe they've seen a little bit from him, and if they've kind of said, okay, this guy can probably be the center when Cooper leaves, and that's why they're pushing Bryson at the guard. Just kind of something I thought about.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I think that's probably what it is because he's almost like a prototype center. He's listed at 6'3", 300 pounds. And, he looks like he might be pretty close to that, at least in height. But usually your centers on the offensive line are going to be kind of like your shorter guys, but they're also, going to be like probably like the smartest offensive lineman, on the team. And to me, out of that 2024 class, and really I could go back to the 2023 class, I think that his fundamentals are the best out of any lineman in those 2 classes. So I think he's going to be a plug-and-play guy once Cooper Mays leaves us. Let's go on to the next guy, and that is Jesse Perry. Came in as an offensive tackle. He's a 3-star. There's some things that we like, from him on film, but I think that he probably is going to be more of a project, probably going to be a guy that, will take him at least 1 year to really kind of figure out how to play up against this type of talent. This looks like in high school, the level of competition just wasn't that high. And then if you go down to a guy like Gage Ginther, who, he's rated as a 3-star interior offensive lineman. He's another one, kind of like an Aiden Bussell, where I think that he can play anything. And I love what I saw from him on film. I think that fundamentally he's very sound and he's a dog. All these guys are dogs in the 24 class and the 23 class. I can definitely vouch for that. And, I think that he's got the proper fundamentals, the proper technique that you can kind of move him in different areas. Now, whenever you're looking at this list, what we're seeing is, I'm just going to go and tell you right now, we have 5 4-stars, okay? One of them left, which was Addison Nichols, okay? And, we got three 4-stars in 2024 class. So a lot of that is, kind of like back end heavy. It's a whole lot of young guys that have a higher ceiling just based off of what 24/7 Sports has to say. Now, again, if you go back and look at our film breakdowns, we do really like a lot of the guys in the 2023 class. So there are some bodies there. And then if you kind of come on down, we've got 12 3-stars. And out of this entire list, right, we've got 2 starters. Okay, we've got 2 starters.
Wow.
And, Addison Nichols was one of the guys that we kind of looked at and said, hey, this is going to be his year. Well, again, he transferred out. And let me see, what else do I have here? How much of this is, in 2021, you could kind of almost put that as a, just like throw it out year. But from then on, it does look like we've done a better job of getting in better caliber players, but we have not, really gotten the most out of the guys in 2022, right? So again, if you go back to 2021, Jeremiah Crawford is still on this roster. He's not going to play, right? So like we talked about, once Gerald Mincey left, we didn't even bring up Jeremiah Crawford. I have not heard anyone bring him up yet. Dane Davis, who's a walk-on guy from the Pruitt era in 2019, came in with Jackson Lampley. He's the guy that everyone's talking about at tackle. We saw what he did in the Citrus Bowl. That just wasn't good. Like, that's just not going to get it done. It seems like he hit his ceiling a little bit earlier in the season, and people kind of talked about this. It's like he kind of, boom, hit the ceiling and kind of pushed back down. We cannot have someone like that. And, I'm not trying to get personal. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but either he's going to have to get tremendously better in the offseason for him to be able to protect our $8 million man, or we need to go out and find somebody else. And then, we've got another tackle that we brought in from the transfer portal in John Campbell that we are expecting to be able to plug in at left or right tackle. Okay. But outside of that, I mean, you see all these tackles and we're not seeing a whole lot of, guys actually playing. So we just in your own words, like in your own thoughts, do you think that this is from us not being able to, find the proper prospects, or is it on Coach E for not being able to get these guys ready to come out onto the field and play?
Well, I guess before I get into that, I do want to give honorable mention to Jeremiah Hurd as a potential guy from 2024 class.
Yeah,
that could factor in the next couple of years. Talk about him being a prototypical offensive tackle project. So we'll see kind of what happens with him. So don't want to leave him out.
Yeah, so for those of y'all who don't know, Jeremiah Hurd, he was rated as an athlete, and that's why he's not on this list. But we are thinking that he could maybe have a more of an upside on the offensive line. Some people kind of think that he's going to be more on that defensive line. But yeah, I mean, he's like 6'8", 315 pounds. He's already prototype size. We've seen him play in basketball. He's got good footwork. You would think that he could be a good tackle, but he's still new to football. So that's kind of a toss-up. But yes, he definitely probably should have been on this list. And, hopefully he can kind of provide some more depth, or maybe even be a piece that can come in and play. We won't know until he gets on campus. But, P, I want for you to go ahead and finish what your thought was. Go ahead.
Yeah. As far as, Ellerby, is it Ellerby, or is it maybe us getting in the wrong type of players? I think it's a little bit combination of both. I think some of these guys, look at the 2022 class, there wasn't really much talent in that class. We like some of the film we saw, the potential of some of those guys, but again, we're really counting on coaches to develop those guys at that point. And then the 2022 class, 2023 class, we like a lot of those guys. We like Umarov, Lang, Bussell. We like those guys, and they're still young. They were true freshmen last year. So I think we'll really get a better feel for it this season. Well, I say that, but again, a lot of those guys won't really play probably because we have a lot of guys coming back. So it's tough to say. Really, I'm still, I think jury's still out on Ellerby's ability to develop and coach. He's got guys from the Pruitt era, right? Cooper Mays, Spraggins, right? He had some of those guys. Minty came in under him. Campbell. He had Darnell Wright from the Pruitt era. He had some of those guys that he's been kind of living off of, and then getting the transfers. It's kind of been his bread and butter. So I think it's still a little too early to tell really if he can develop or not, because we just haven't really seen enough of these guys to know. But I think that's imperative next season to get Umarov in, get Bryson Lang in, get Bussell, get these guys some meaningful snaps so they can see the SEC competition. And so also we can see if these guys can play or not, because we really still don't know. They look good, like they look good, but can they play? But I think as we continue to win and do better on the field, we'll see the talent that we pick up start to increase more and more.
Yeah, so we're bringing all this up because we all know that we've probably only got 2 more years with Nico, and I think that we're all on the same page with this. Nico looks like he's an absolute total stud, but he does need an offensive line. That's probably going to be the most critical part to what Nico can do. He can get the football to people. He can extend plays. He can make plays with his legs as well. But he's going to need a better offensive line than what he saw in that Iowa game. Now, we did see him do it in that Iowa game. Gerald Mincey was at left tackle, and I do think that John Campbell is a better left tackle than Gerald Mincey is, but not by much. So we're still missing that right tackle presence as far as I'm concerned, because Dane Davis, to me, just will not get it done. So the real question is, if we don't see that talent on this roster, and listen, again, we haven't seen a whole lot of these younger guys play. Maybe someone is there, maybe someone's good enough. But I would kind of take that back to the coaching staff and say, well, if these guys are better than the upperclassmen, why the hell aren't they playing? Is it just because Coach E wants to play these veteran guys? Is it Coach Heupel? Who's being overly loyal to the players that, are not, the best that we have on this roster? And we've got to correct that, because we need to play our best players. I don't care what class they are. I don't care how long they've been here. This is a winning business. We've got to win. The fans want to win. I know that the coaching staff wants to win too. And I kind of feel like there's a little bit of too much of a nice guy, whether it's from Coach Heupel at the very top, Coach E, whoever it is. There's a whole lot of layers that we can kind of dig into this. And y'all let us know down in the comment section what y'all think. But all I'm saying all this just to say this, right? As far as we know, as a fan base, it seems like the coaching staff doesn't trust these younger guys that's already on this roster that we've gone out, and brought to this team. And we're going out into the transfer portal. And we talked about it. There's 3 guys that we really, are targeting. And I'm going to pull up my notes right here. We've got Armage, which I believe is the correct way to say his name now. Reed Adams, that is the offensive lineman from Kansas. He was a 3-star coming out of high school, can play guard, can play tackle. We liked him a whole lot more at guard. Felt like maybe he could plug in at that left guard spot. And P, after you kind of talked about seeing Bison Lang in that Citrus Bowl playing at the left guard spot, you said, hey, he looks like he's a guy who can plug in and play. From what I've seen from Bison Lang, I feel like, these 2 guys, Bison Lang and Armage Reed Adams are kind of a push. And, again, I talked about that earlier, but I'm just going to bring it back up. I think that just because Bison Lang has been in this system for a longer time, he could be a better option at guard. I've been following this very closely. It sounds like after, Reed Adams' visit, that he's probably not going to be picking Tennessee. So that's a huge bummer. Again, these are the reason that we're bringing this whole, town meeting, so to speak, for everyone up, is because sounds like we're not going to be able to get him. Okay, so he's scratched off the list. Then we've got a guy like Lance Hurd, who played tackle at LSU. He was a 5-star coming out of high school, and he was a backup guy. So he wants to transfer out of LSU because he's not going to be able to see the field playing tackle. He wants to play left tackle. That's what he's looking for in this transfer portal. We thought early on that Ole Miss was the team to beat. He came in and visited us yesterday. It was a very quick visit, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that. And at this point, he is at Oklahoma. We don't know what's going to happen right there. But I'll just tell you this, right? So, P and I, we've been talking. I'll just tell y'all, right, just straight up, watching his film, right? So I went back to that Auburn game. That was the first game that he got to see significant playing time, watched him play throughout the entire game. And I said, well, really after maybe like the first 2 or 3 plays, I said, damn, this dude could potentially come in and be the best offensive lineman on this team. And that includes Cooper Mays. And he can't even start at LSU. I'm just keeping it real. This is just what I see. That's what I'm seeing from him. I think that, if he wants to come in and play left tackle, you tell John Campbell to move over to right tackle. That's what I see. P, you also watched this film. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Lance Hurd?
Yeah, man, you said it. He'd come here and probably be our best guy day one. I mean, he was a true freshman this past season. He'll come in here as a true sophomore and be our best guy. First talk about him on the field. He's everything you want. He's physical. He shows good athleticism, can pull, can move guys in the run game, has beautiful pass set, good feet. He's everything you want from a daggone offensive lineman. But that kind of goes to your point earlier. How come LSU has freaking backup offensive linemen? This guy's 2023, class 2023, okay? And he is already better than anybody on our roster. Why can't we get those type of guys? And we know we still need time to develop, but we had a good year in 2022. You know what I mean? We had a good year then. We have the facilities, we have the NIL. Why can't we bring in these blue chip caliber offensive linemen at a high clip like that. Get these 5-star type of guys. I know we're in it for some guys, but we just kind of the common theme with the staff so far has been we can't close. Okay, we just can't close on these guys, and we've got to figure out a way to get that done. Because Nico's going to suffer for it. Okay, we only have a few guys on the O-line that we can trust. I mean, heck, this is like a boat. You got one hole in that boat, it's going to sink. Okay, we got to make sure every single hole is plugged in, so we can make sure we can have a good solid protection for Nico. But I think it's still a little bit early for sure to say whether or not this staff can recruit and develop, or especially Glenn Ellaby. I think we'll know a lot in 2024, actually, when I really think about it, because we saw Dane Davis, Jeremiah Crawford, those guys played a lot this season. So I think next year, even though Dane's going to be like a 7th-year guy or whatever, it should be Umarov, or it should be, one of those guys that goes in instead of Dane Davis. And if those guys are still not going in, then, I don't know what to tell you. It's either lack of development, it's a lack of trust, or it's poor evaluation from this staff. So I think we do have to start asking those questions probably after the spring, really start asking those questions if LB's the right guy for the O-line.
Yeah, no, those are all excellent points. And now, let me just kind of finish up with Lance Hurd, so to me, okay, so just to me, from hearing all the insiders talk, I can't really call it, okay? Like, they're not saying that they feel good that Lance Hurd's going to be coming in. They're not saying that, maybe he's going to go to Oklahoma. From what I heard from Austin Price early on, it sounded like Lance Hurd's a guy that's going to be taking some visits next weekend once the dead period ends. They've got until January the 15th to decide and sign where they're going to go. And I don't know, I just don't feel great about it. We need to have some sort of an offensive tackle body, again, unless one of these younger guys is better than what we thought, or, better than what the staff is letting on to. Let me go on to Diego Pounds. That's the offensive tackle from North Carolina. He was supposed to be visiting today. And, as of the time that we are making this video, sounds like Lane Kiffin did a really good job out there at Ole Miss, which is where he was visiting at first, to kind of, stall him, kind of keep him back so that he can't make it to campus with Tennessee because, that dead period starts tonight. So those are the types of things that I'm talking about, right? So even with him, watching him on film, I think that he could potentially come in and, he for sure is going to be one of our best offensive linemen. I don't think that his ceiling is necessarily as high as Lance Hurd's. Lance Hurd will come in next season as a sophomore, and then, Pounds will come in as a junior. I think that Hurd has a little bit of a higher ceiling at tackle. Hopefully we can close out on either one of these guys, but kind of back to your point, P, what is it that's keeping us from closing in on these guys? Is it that we run that tempo? Do guys not want to do that? Or is it just that we're having an issue with Coach E being able to close out on these guys? And I think that Coach Heupel, Coach E is a guy who's been with Coach Heupel, I feel like, since he started being a head coach. But Coach Heupel is going to have to, if they're, really close friends like what we think they are, he's going to have to go to Coach E and say, hey, man, listen, this ain't getting it done. So talk to me for real. What do we need to do to help you out? Because we don't want to see anyone get fired, but there's other things that you can do. You need to call in someone else to be more of a fundamental teacher of these players. If we are getting in good enough talent, and I feel like, P, we looked at these guys' film from 2023 to 2024, and we're seeing, obviously the staff offered them, the staff brought them in. So they're seeing that these guys are capable. And we felt the exact same way. We felt that several of these guys were underrated. So it's not that, to me, it's not that they are, not finding good enough players. To me, they're not developing these players at a fast enough clip, because I would even think that in the 2023 class, there's a couple of guys that should be good enough where we're not, at code red, desperation mode. Mm-hmm. Got to find somebody in the portal. And that's my whole point. Is right. Maybe Coach Heupel needs to, bring in someone that can teach the fundamentals of what blocking looks like. Because, P, we talked about this too. We're seeing a lot of the same issues, right? So if you talk about a guy like Bennett Warren, who we love his ceiling, but, there's a couple of things that you're looking at and you're like, this is not going to get it done in SEC play. Some of it is that he doesn't have good footwork and he falls over his feet, right? Like, you see him being very top heavy. And we're seeing the same things from the guys on this roster at this point, literally the exact same thing. So it's almost like maybe there is a little bit of an issue of identifying the proper talent. Maybe they're getting in guys that all have the same issues, but at the same time, I would think that there's an issue being able to get them better, because you should be able to get them out of that. That is not a very difficult fix from a fundamentals perspective. You just got to drive that point home. So maybe we start off there, get a guy in that can really teach those fundamentals. And maybe, Coach E's got to come up off of his salary some so we can hire somebody else, bring him in and get that part of it right. And then two, I've heard this several times, that Coach E is not big into talking to these young guys. Like, he's not a big, go out there and get these blue chip type of a guy. So maybe we need to get someone in place for him in that aspect too. There's a couple of red flags for me, right? But if Coach Heupel just cannot let go of Coach E, work around that, work around that. And I'm just going to say this, and I hate to be negative Nancy, but Coach Hype, if you keep him around and if you don't get that fixed in whatever way you're choosing, you're going to be gone too, because we cannot win without an offensive line. P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you said it all right there, man. I mean, is it development from Coach E, or is it, like you said, his lack of willingness to recruit? Either way, you made excellent point there. Go hire some additional support staff to help him out. Okay, whether that's you go get you a guy kind of like Coach G did with hiring Robert Ayers. Okay, get you maybe an ex-NFL guy, okay, and freaking bring him in, show these guys the fundamentals, show these guys how to play. Because, I mean, it seems like it's small little things that they need to fix. Like you said, always ducking their head and getting their head over their toes too much. That seems like an easy technique fix. Maybe you go get the right type of guy to come in here and show these guys a way, or that can communicate to these guys. It might be the same thing that Coach Elby's telling them, but they say it in a way that these kids can pick up on and understand. It's all about having different people, can kind of get to reach these guys different ways. And then also get you a guy that can go out there and recruit. That's, hey, Coach E, you may not feel like going out here. Well, heck, I'm going to go get on this plane. I'm going to go talk to this guy. I'm going to go see him. And I think also you got to put some blame on Coach Heupel, because as the head coach, you get a guy like Lance Hurd on campus. If he doesn't commit on the spot, at the end of the day, that's on you. I mean, imagine that guy going to Bama. Do you think Saban's letting him off the daggum campus? Or like you said of Ole Miss with Pound, Kiffin ain't letting this guy leave. Close the deal. You got to have that salesman, closing mentality. And can't these fish off the daggum hook when you got them on the reel. So, there's a lot to see here. But at the end of the day, and we're different kind of our personality. You're more, now, hey, I want to see it right now, which you need that to get to the program where you want to be. And sometimes I'm a little more patient and say, well, I kind of try to make excuses for him, whatever. Maybe he needs another year to see these guys. So it's a tough place to be in. I think 2024 will tell us a lot. But before we get to there, if we miss on all three of those O-linemen you just mentioned from the portal, okay, all three of those guys, especially the guard from freaking Kansas, I mean, it's not he loved Tennessee. So why is he not committing? Why is Lance Hurd not committing? We have a clear open spot for you at right tackle. You want to play left tackle? That's going to be tough to get Campbell to move as a seventh-year guy, whatever. But, I mean, we got to figure out what we got to do to tell these guys what they want to hear and get them on freaking campus, because we're trying to win that championship. So it's got to happen.
Yeah, and honestly speaking, I'm just gonna say it. Like, I think that we've got to get a little bit more of that. Now, I hate to say it like this, but it's just true. We got to get a little bit more of that. I guess salesman, kind of like what you just said, is a better way to say it. But I was gonna say kind of like that, like sleazeball. Like you've got to do some things. You've got to be able to kind of like bend those rules. You can't be so like Boy Scout type coaching staff, because we're trying to win, and everyone else is doing it. So you've got to be able to compete. And our, team has not shown that we can win enough on the field for you to be so straight up and down. And honestly speaking, I know firsthand that Kirby Smart ain't doing that Boy Scout stuff. Okay. Nick Saban, he ain't doing it either. Now he might have a little bit of a shorter tolerance for that BS. Okay. So if some of these guys come in on some BS, and by the way, we talked about Jalen McMurray. That is the cornerback from Temple. Sounds like Tennessee has moved on from him. Kind of like a side note, just like as I'm kind of spitballing, thinking things off. Sounds like maybe he came up onto campus. And for those of y'all that don't know, a lot of times these college coaches want to see that eye test. Like, they want to see you in person. And he probably came up on campus and he wasn't as big as what they wanted him to be. But his technique and everything on the field was fundamentally sound. So if you really need another player in that secondary, I think that, again, that's a whole nother video. But those guys are going to have to come up off of that. Oh, you got to be 6 feet. You got to be this, you got to be that. If they're ballers, if they're dogs, that's what you need more than these, measurables and stuff, because you've had guys in with the proper measurables, yes, and they have not produced to the standard of what a championship team needs. So there's a whole lot of, I can go on and on for days, but really I've gotten, and P, like I said, I am a little bit, have a little bit more of a short leash whenever it comes to this stuff, because we've got a very small window. We've got Nico for 2 years. He's a generational talent. We both feel the same way on that. And it feels like we're not going to be able to get the proper, players around him to be able to win. And that really pisses me off. So we've got to step it up, okay? I don't care what we have to do. I honestly don't. I know that there's some of y'all that probably look at Coach Pruitt and say, oh, he was giving these, bags of money to these folks. Dude, Coach G's been doing it for years. Okay, Coach Foreman, and I hate to say this, and it's not just Coach Foreman, but every single coach that has had a successful team has been doing it for years. That's part of the game, whether you want to accept it or not. It just is. You've got to kind of bend and break on the rules because other teams are doing it. Who's better at doing it and not getting caught? That is what matters, okay? I think that we can push the envelope a little bit more. P, like you said, there's no reason that Hurd comes in, Reed Adams comes in, and they're not committing on the spot. If they don't commit on the spot, hold them back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Slow them down. You're going to miss your flight, right? Like, we know that dead period is coming up. Do whatever it takes, okay? Do whatever it takes because we have to win. And I just don't feel that type of a dog from this coaching staff, and that's the concerning part. But we will see, right? We'll see up until the 15th. We'll see really at the end of this weekend, can we close on any of these guys we really need to tackle more than anything? P, do you have any more thoughts?
No, you said it all, man. This is our window. And so if we got to up the NIL, whatever it is, do whatever it takes, because this is your chance. And we can't miss this opportunity, because if we go out here and win a national title 2024 or 2025, like everybody knows, winning a national title, that just elevates your program to another level. And we got to do that to continue to get these blue chip recruits, because this is our window. Like, this is, the iron's hot. We got to strike now. If we miss it, I don't know, man. They're not telling me how much longer it'll be before we can get this thing rolling again. So we got to do whatever it takes to get the pieces around Nico, especially on the O-line, because that's really the primary thing you need, O-line. You need to get receivers too, but you really need O-line to protect them and give him time to escape the pocket and make plays downfield, because I think he's going to be able to throw guys open like we saw Mill Keaton on the sideline and against Iowa. He's throwing the ball so perfectly. This guy's going to help him catch the ball. So I think he'll be able to make plays even with maybe a little bit less talent, but you got to get those pieces too. But, like I said, there's a lot of things. We got to just make sure everything is locked and loaded. We got all ducks in a row and go out here and make a run for this title in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are on the same page. We don't know if y'all are or not, but let us know down in the comment section. What do you think the issue is with Tennessee not being able to close on some of these offensive linemen? Please let us know, because we're still trying to wrap our minds around it. And we don't have a very concrete, solid answer, but we do know that at the end of the day, what we wrote out there in that Citrus Bowl, that's not going to be good enough for SEC play, for, trying to make it into a 12-team playoff. And it definitely is not going to be good enough to be a national title contender. I don't care how good the quarterback is, how good anybody is. You're going to need better offensive line play. So can we get it fixed? Will we get it fixed? Please let us know down in the comment section. And what do we need to do to get it fixed? Okay. What's the issue? But that's going to be it for this video. Please also, consider becoming a member of this channel. That's the best way to support us as we, continue to try to do this full time. And you will get exclusive content, on player breakdowns on the college level, whether it be with our team, whether it's with the offense, defense, individual players, or whether it's with who we're going to be facing in that upcoming week. So that's a huge way to support this channel. But as always, please remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.